Terry starts step up the middle of the field, 40. Big hole, 50. He's gone, 45. At the 30. Left sideline, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Jaden Terry. The tank for the landscape. Give read option keeper a whole bunch of space. At the 40. Got the 35, 30. Up the middle of the field, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Bryce Underwood. And welcome to game night. Nate Dreyer, Chandler Tim with you here on taking it at the 14-yard line with being offset by Tyson Mann. Jimmy's over the 30. Burst of speed at the 40. Right sideline, 50. Able to get away from the tackle. Walking the tightrope at the 30. 25-20. All alone. 10-5. Touchdown, Grandville. Snap to Underwood from the gun. Fake handoff on the RPO. Thrown left side. Caught Yarbrough. Sidesteps the defender at the 5. Walks into the end zone. Touchdown, Belleville. The Tigers put it away. 34-17. They're going to go back-to-back. Fake handoff, keeper left side over the 45-yard line, upside the numbers of the 40, 35-30, left sideline 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown, 7 touchdowns for Mason McKenzie, and Caledonia has just about served this one up on ice. Hello, YouTube, Grandville, how we feeling? How we feeling, Grandville? We got to be feeling pretty good, I would have to say. Nate Dreyer, Chandler Timmer. This is the Tailgate Report. And we start with the game of the week. Grand Haven, quite the matchup against Jenison. That goes down to the wire in that one. No. Chandler, I mean, the game of the year, we were debating it on air, off air. Where does this rank in terms of the best games that we've ever covered? It's way up there, if nothing else. Gosh, give me your first thoughts.
Yeah, it was just a wild game all the way around, from the weather conditions to us looking like we're going to be soaked to moving inside to the weather continuing through the entire night. I'm sure it was somewhat miserable to be playing in, but also at the same time for Grandville, you get the win. It makes it all worth it. But just a wild game all the way around. When you look back at some of the big plays on special teams, you look at some of the interceptions and turnovers and the way the game played out in the fourth quarter. Of course, winning the game with 2 seconds to go is where it all ends. And I think a lot of the Bulldog faithful, of course, that's what you're going to remember from that. And then a tremendous game. I think definitely right up there at the top. There's been a couple Bulldogs wins in that throughout the course of the years, but this is immediately against a rival like Caledonia, jumps to the top.
And we have the best way to be able to get into it this week. We have a pair of interviews from Grandville seniors, Cash Ruff, kind of last minute, and then also Mike Medawis were able to join us. So I'm really glad that we were able to get both of those interviews this week, because they both take us through what on earth happened in those final plays and talk about the season and talk about everything else. So couple of interviews on this week's show, which is definitely both worth catching out. Like you said, though, I want to give our kind of list of thank yous, different stuff, because it was a mess, of course, at Caledonia, like you said. And like we were supposed to be outside. We get there, and we have a setup to be outside. We have a tote, we have cover. We know what we're doing. We've been outside before. And then the rain's coming in like this. It's coming in real hard, and the computer is just soaked. And I turned to you, and I said, this isn't working. Essentially,
yeah. There were some other words in there.
Less, essentially, this isn't going to work. So I ran around, was able to find Phil Medema, the great assistant athletic director at Caledonia, and essentially said, like, hey, and I was, I was probably had a mean look in my eye. I apologize for that, because it was mostly just terror, because I'm about to destroy $5,000 worth of computers and broadcast equipment that we've been collecting over the last 10 years. Because again, we always have to do too much with the broadcasts. Right. And so we got to just, we're going to have to be inside. We're going to have to go home. So he was able to find a way to get us inside. Essentially, they have coaches' boxes, PA, and then in between those, on each side, they have a broadcast booth, 2 of them. One was their Huddle TV broadcast, understood they needed that space. The other one had essentially 3.5 seats, 3.2 seats, with the 1.2 being behind the fridge.
Yeah, where I happened to be sitting.
And you know what? And it was one of those things like, Phil's like, we can try to get you in here. And essentially they have in that spot a stat guy on an iPad and then a spotter. So we knew we'd be able to make it happen. We squeezed in whatever. And that's, again, huge thank you to Phil, to everyone at Caledonia to help make it happen. I will say, though, I don't think any of it got onto the broadcast, but in terms of some of our stat booth mates, there were some things said about us, about the officials. For the situation that I was not overly thrilled the way that they treated us to some extent, a little bit unhospitably, and it, again, this is not Caledonia. Phil, Fred, everyone went out of their way to make it happen for us, but it was just those that they can't necessarily control in the press box. Yeah, I don't want to say too much about it, but I did feel like we've done a lot of Caledonia games, and I've felt a connection. I really like that fan base and that community, but there were some individuals that I'm glad Grandville won. There were just, yeah, and this isn't, and again, this is a 1% ruining it for the 99%, but it was one of those things where it was a little frustrating, where it's like, it wasn't our decision to want to have to be in here because of the rain and want whatever. So, thankfully there were some other Grandville faithful that also joined us with where we were, so it kind of, helped a little bit. And again, we aren't even Grandville faithfulness. Like, we've done a lot of Cal. No one's done more Caledonia games than us, honestly, almost in the last year and a half. Like, truly, when you count the playoffs. So, I'll leave it at that. Big thank you. Also, on the end of this first segment, buy merch. Everyone knows to go to our store. I always like to capitalize. I don't know if anyone wants it, but if you liked that football game and you want to buy a shirt about it, that has the final call, the score, and stuff on it. So you can buy that if you want. MGN shop. I'm not even pushing stuff anymore. I don't care anymore. Whatever. So that's the takeaway. Thank you. We got to stay somewhat. Well, we weren't dry. I mean, we still were wet for the next 3 days. But we were able to stay somewhat dry. The equipment didn't break, and Grandville won an incredible game. All right. Great way. That's our quick intro. Whatever. We're going to just bang them out back to back, I think. Cash Ruff, Mike Medawis, and then we'll be back.
All right.
Sounds good. We'll be right back.
I'm Randy Hansen, president of Centennial Securities. I've heard it said that professional coaches measure success in rings, college coaches measure success in championships, and high school coaches measure it in titles. But youth coaches measure success in smiles. At Centennial Securities, we're like the youth coach. Our success is measured by the smiles on the faces of our satisfied clients. If you're a Centennial Securities customer, you know what I mean. If you're not, isn't it about time?
Member SIPC and FINRA.
And welcome back, everyone, to Game Night and Captain's Corner this week. We've got a couple of Captain's Corner interviews, and we start with the senior quarterback leader of the Grandville Bulldogs, who is coming off one heck of a performance, especially at the very end of it with a winning touchdown with 2 seconds to go. Cash Ruff joined us here on MGN. How are you doing tonight, Cash?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for coming on. I mean, this obviously is a perfect time for our interview with you. Let's get into it. The Caledonia game. Take me through some of the emotions and just kind of some of your first thoughts and takeaways from that incredible game. I know that's a tough thing just to set up because there's so much to take away from it.
Yeah. So going into the game, me personally, I had a chip on my shoulder because the year before, I broke my hand against Cal. Mm-hmm. So I really wanted to get at it, and I just felt something in this game, and it was very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's take a look at, there are two plays, I think, from you that are going to stand out, the two touchdown plays. Let's look at first the first of the two, so not the winning score at the end, but the play where you rolled out, kind of reversed course, somehow found a way to sneak in the end zone. I mean, kind of take us through, some of kind of what was the play call there. It almost looked like you were looking past, or you put a pump fake in there. Like what were some of the things going through your head on the first of that touchdown play, which was a really incredible athletic play?
Yeah, it was a pass.
Okay.
But the funny thing is, Mike actually looked at me before the play and said, "Don't pass."
Okay.
And so I saw him out of the corner of my eye while I was running, and so I stopped and looked, and it wasn't there at all. Once I finally stopped, and then just evaded the first guy, and then saw the end zone.
Yeah, no, I mean not many guys have shown an ability to snake and accelerate their way through that linebacking core and defensive back core throughout the last couple of years. And then the game-winning play, which we kind of highlighted was a really well drawn up play with the time remaining, getting you to the sideline. I guess take us through a little bit of the play call there and the play that you made diving for the end zone, and then also when you put the ball over, was it one of those things where you were dead sure that you knew you got it? I know it was kind of hovering. Take us through kind of your mindset during and after that the game clinching play.
Yeah. So during the timeout, he told me to throw it away if it wasn't there.
Okay.
And during the play, I barely looked at pass. It was covered immediately, and I just looked to the side, looked to the pylon and saw it, and just got going. And then when I was in it was a for sure touchdown when I saw it.
Yep.
But the ball did come out really early after I passed the plane.
Yeah, and that's why it was, in the booth, there was kind of that quick pause waiting for the official, and then, of course, the wild moment and wild scenes that followed it up. Let's look kind of bigger picture on this season. Like you said, you in this game in particular, you had a chip on your shoulder. We had a chance to see you a little bit last year at the quarterback position, in particular the playoff game where Carson already had his injury, and then right away in that game you break your hand and don't really even have a chance to try to beat Caledonia. So we've seen kind of week by week all that you can do, and you're being used in a lot of different ways in this offense. Tell me a little bit about your season. Kind of some of what it's been like going through your senior year and kind of culminating now in this Caledonia game.
Yeah, just to start off, it was very very slow for my part. Didn't do much in the beginning of the season. Just watching the games just go and seeing the running backs do their work, and late as the games kept going on, I had to make some plays, and then the last game had to seal the deal. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Looking ahead as well, I know you're a player. You've got I think a Davenport and another offer to as an athlete on the table. Where are kind of some of your mindsets or your thoughts, I should say, in terms of next year college selection, maybe playing at the next level? Where are you at right now with that process?
Yeah, still hoping for some more offers, but definitely looking at Davenport and Valpo for defense and maybe quarterback too, as well.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up by looking ahead. As if last week's game wasn't big enough, there's now another even bigger one, and it's the arch rival of the program, Rockford. First off, tell me about this game from the emotional standpoint of you're coming off such a high of this Caledonia win, carrying that momentum, against a team that Grandville has not beaten now since 2019, is where the mark is against Grandville or against Rockford. Where are you at in terms of, I know all games are easy to get up for, but this one's got to be that much easier to be ready to rock and roll for.
Yeah, just the entire week just is really exciting. I'm just so excited to practice, and we got to get our guys to keep our heads up and don't look past them. We know we definitely won't look past them, but we got to just keep grinding this week.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, this is a Rockford team this year that, 106 kids. Only Ryan Ahern plays both ways. Drake Irwin's had such great quarterback play. But, for your standpoint, at the quarterback position, Randy Vanderveen, the defensive coordinator in this defense, they have had a little bit of the trick against the T at times being in the past. So, this is a physical defense. It's a defense that's been shutting a lot of teams down. I'm sure you guys are relishing the opportunity to be able to try to take them on and make a little bit of a statement.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that really is where is the best place to be able to leave it. It's Rockford week. There's nothing much more to say. Hey, Cash, thank you so much for your time and coming on with us here tonight.
Thank you.
All right, Cash Ruff, senior quarterback for the Grandville Bulldogs here on Captain's Corner. And welcome back, everyone, to game night and to Captain's Corner. And now we are joined by a mainstay of this Grandville football program for the last few years, and mainstay of the program on almost every down they play. This year in particular, it's senior offensive lineman, tight end, and defensive lineman Mike Medawis here on Captain's Corner. How are you doing tonight, Mike?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Of course, still excited coming off this unbelievable game on last Friday night against Caledonia. I mean, we called it the game of the year, I guess. Just give me some of your first thoughts. I'll leave the floor kind of open on the win, what it meant, and just kind of the emotions of that crazy night.
It was a big win against Caledonia, especially for me since I've never really beaten them. We tied with them my freshman year. Sophomore year, we lost to them. Then, obviously, last year. Well, yeah, it was a huge confidence booster for us, the whole team, realizing that, we are the team that we expected we were in the summer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we just, on this episode, also got a chance to talk to Cash, and we talked to him about some of those kind of the final plays, the scoring, the last two touchdowns in particular, the final one. Take us through a little bit kind of in the huddle, setting that play up, and kind of where your emotions were at, where the team was at going into that final play that culminated in the winning touchdown with 2 seconds to go.
Yeah, it was actually supposed to be a pass. Cash rolls out to the left. I run a little whip route, and then Gv'ille comes over top in the back of the end zone. But I guess Cash decided to keep it for himself and jump to the end zone because I did drop a pass earlier in the game.
Yeah, and he had mentioned too. In our interview with Cash, he mentioned his other touchdown, the one before that, also was at first going to be a drawn-up pass, but you had kind of motioned back to him, maybe saying not to throw it as the play was beginning to develop or something to that effect as well. So it was also a bit of communication between you two that led to the first of his 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, sort of. Really, they were just all improvised on Cash.
Mm-hmm.
It was really all Cash.
Yeah, no, they were some impressive plays, and I think your role and why we were looking forward to being able to talk to you is, I mean, you're a guy that we've seen you in a ton of different roles, I think, around the team this year. In particular, you come into this offseason, and I think, the team is in a fortunate position where you guys have just this abundance of offensive linemen, in particular offensive tackles. And, Coach Stegall goes with the decision to move you to tight end, essentially almost as an extra tackle out there. Tell me a little bit about kind of that offseason process. When Coach Stegall first came, you said, hey, we're gonna move you to tight end. We're going to put you in this sort of role, and kind of some of what went into that throughout the summer.
Yeah. Immediately I had realized that I had to get in shape. Over the summer, I'd lost 30 pounds.
Wow, yeah. So,
yeah, and it was obviously a new position. I had always been next to it, but I never really knew the routes and all that. So that was a learning curve. And just playing on the outermost of the O-line was pretty strange. So I had to get used to that during the season. But now I'm able to play both sides with pretty much efficiency.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then also a big part of that from the outside would be this would be the first time you've probably had to choose like a pass eligible number. So what was the process in picking 87? Was there anything behind that? When you also got the chance to get to pick one of the skill position numbers on top of that move?
It was just Gronk, really. Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And also you're on the defensive side of the ball so much. This is something I kind of asked Stefan a few weeks ago as well with his role playing both ways. We know about the physical aspect of it, but for you as a guy that, you've already put together these pieces of moving to tight end, now also you're playing the defensive line on a defensive line that shifts things around quite a bit. Tell me about kind of the mental aspect in the game of being able to, kind of keep things straight, playing every down and playing, 2 sides, 2 different systems, and in a system defensively that mixes things up as well.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. I'm not perfect. There's been a few times where I get mixed between like offense and defense, or offense, I get one side of the offense and I play it or run the wrong play that's supposed to be on the other side. But for defense, mainly Coach Duda has been keeping it simple for us, so that allows us, me and Stefan, to just just go full steam ahead.
Yeah, no, it's been impressive to watch. And you guys have been able to control things, especially. I feel like on the defensive line, you guys are a unit that gets stronger as the games go along. Like, I feel like it's at the end of the games in particular is where we've seen in some of these contests the pass rush starting to pick up at moments, and it just seems to be that you're a unit that seems to really enjoy the physicality of the football games and get better to some extent as the games go on.
Yeah, I think that's just our passion for football coming in, and Coach Duda has really brought that out in us. Last game, he had told us to take it personal because of what happened the previous year against Cal, and had them dropping 50 on us.
Yeah, no, and you could tell, and we talked about it. How the defense came up against a team that is as dangerous offensively as any, and you guys certainly found some stops, made some big plays. We'll kind of transition off. Of course, like we ask everyone, looking ahead, kind of college, your current thoughts in terms of playing at the next level, schools you might be looking at. Where are you at right now in that process, looking ahead to next year?
I'm still completely in the dark on that. There's been schools that have shown massive amount of interest, but haven't pressed the trigger on that. Obviously, Hope, Calvin, and Valpo are my offers right now. Albion's in there. I think all the MIAA schools. I've had interest from Michigan Tech, Davenport, and so yeah, I'm just waiting until wrestling season and then track season for all that.
Yeah, no, that's great. I got a chance. I did the Hope Albion game last weekend, so hopefully you might get a chance with some of the games I get to do to stay in the MIAA or other good offers out there as well to get to continue watching it. All right, we move on to this week. Like I said, kind of last week, I think in the interview with Carson as well. You guys are a unit, and you have a coaching staff that's always very good at next game is always the biggest game, and so on and so forth. But it's got to be that much easier to be ready to go for Rockford, just knowing the rivalry. You guys haven't beaten them since 2019 at this point in time. So got to be a really good chance. You guys have to be excited to get this opportunity to make a statement and to have a chance to win the OK Red Championship.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with it being home, it's going to be probably one of the best atmospheres I'm ever going to play in. That gets us excited, and obviously the win with Cal boosts our confidence. But we're just bringing it back to the basics this week. Just back to the fundamentals, stick to the way we play the game, get fast off the ball, and not fall for any of the movement that Rockford does on offense, and stick to our assignments on defense.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on it, and obviously not expecting a load of commentary and game planning on it, but this Rockford team, they're so deep. 106 kids, goes without saying. A lot of talent on both sides of the football. The defense has been great. The offense is high flying. What are some of the things that you guys are looking at? You just mentioned some of those things, but some of the things that you're going to really have to be able to execute well if you're going to keep control in this football game and have a chance to beat this Rams team.
Really just stick to our assignments. They're going to throw a bunch of formations out at us, and we've been practicing against movement on offense. They like to, show plays late to mess with our assignments. But yeah, really for defense, it's just stick to our keys and everything will be all right.
All right, I agree. I can't wait to. We're watching from afar this week with our red zone style coverage, but we'll be mostly tuned into this game, and I cannot wait. And I wish you and everyone else the most of luck. Mike, thank you so much for your time, and good luck out there on Friday.
All right, thank you.
All right, Mike Medawis, Grandville, senior offensive lineman, tight end, and defensive lineman here on Captain's Corner. All right, Grandville 38, Caledonia 34. The call at the end from yours truly, outside of the screech and the voice crack, which I want to go inside baseball, and I want to going back to my intro rant. So I was trying to be quiet was the main thing all night long. I was trying to be as quiet as possible, and I was putting a lot of strain on my voice trying to be quiet. And then we would get into these, like moments where I'm like also excitable while trying to be quiet, and it just turned into a screech. So that's why touchdown Grandville was the call when Ruff got into the end zone. So there's your explanation. I felt like I needed to explain myself on why I had my trouble with the snap moment on that call. Okay. I don't know where to begin. I literally don't know. Okay, so I guess let's start from the beginning, and we'll just kind of poke through some things, then we'll kind of get into specific things. Actually, let's do it this way. I want to start with a little bit of my own commentary on the game.
All right.
Which is, I believe, and we said it off air. I don't know if we said it on air. I believe that is the best game that I have ever seen Eric Stiegel coach. We've seen him in a lot of games for the last 6-ish years, however many years. A lot of we've been here for more than half of his tenure. We've been on these games. We've seen a lot of big wins Grandville's pulled off. I mean, I think you can think 2019 Rockford was a game up there too, in terms of a game that was close that Grandville suffocated them out and won. But for a back-and-forth game, going up against a coach that knows what he's doing on the other sideline, like Coach Stiegel seemed to have the right calls. The way they set up the final series as well, and the final couple of plays, I'll let you talk to this more too, but like the special teams decisions made when they made them, some of the offensive decisions made when they made them, the way he handled that final goal-to-go stretch as the clock was running down and seemingly doing it perfectly, like I really felt like that was... It's a lot easier to say this when a coach wins, but even if they had barely lost this game, I felt like it was one of his best coach games because it didn't go perfect. Right. There were plenty of things that didn't go perfect, but like they really, Stiegel, KJ Landis, everyone else on the staff too, but like Coach Stiegel's the head guy. I really thought this was the best game I've ever seen him coach. Yeah,
I think there's no doubt that it's right up there, if not the number one. I mean, as you said, we've seen a lot of games. I feel like we've talked about this afterwards, that you've seen a pretty similar game script against the Caledonias and the Rockfords of the world over the course of us watching Grandville football, and I kind of feel like I've seen it a bunch of times where it's the majority of the game, the Bulldogs are kind of chasing the ghost a little bit. They're always down a couple scores, never out of the game, but just always, just never can quite turn the corner to take a lead and win a game, close it out. And it's not that those games are poorly coached by any means. It was just, you're going up against a really solid team and just never able to get the break to go your way. And this was a game where it felt like Coach Stiegel was pulling all the right strings at the exact right time. And whether it was the play calling and the sustained drives down the field, whether it was the special teams and the drops there and what they were able to do on the kickoff returns, if that's something they had seen. I don't know. I mean, it was a lot of just a wide open in the middle of the field and run through it. But if that's a special teams coaching thing, the onside kick, the pooch kicks, just kind of knowing exactly what he needed from his team in a game where you're down, down in the fourth quarter, down in the second half, where you're able to get an offensive drive and knowing that you need to do something to get yourself another possession after you need another score there, and just the way they were able to do it. I mean, it looked like they had prepared for that. They didn't look uncomfortable with it. And then, of course, to execute and pull it off is a whole nother thing. But I think an impressive game all the way around.
And we'll work kind of backwards. Let's start with the final drive and the final goal to go, the way they handle it, because it's one of those things where I had a chance to kind of take a step back and like think about it more over the weekend, and I was kind of thinking about the way they handled it. I'm like, because like the first thought is like, oh, what if Cash doesn't get the ball over the end zone there? And then the thought is, oh wait, he got out of bounds.
Yep.
They have another play still, and then they can still draw it up. So the genius of what they did there is they drew up. I don't know if there was a pass first or if it was just a rollout, but like the genius of it was, and I don't think this was just Cash on his own doing it. If it was, huge IQ play by the senior. They got it to the sideline. Like, they drew something up where we are in rhythm, able to get a shot at the end zone, either a run or a pass, and we're going to stop the clock. And it, like, that was the genius of it, is like they still would have had another play. Now, at that point in time, the decision comes down to, are we having the sophomore kick it, or are we, trying to punch it in again? But, like, I mean, that was, to me, thinking about it over the weekend, that was the genius, the way they handled that. That was perfectly. What the play they ran was beyond perfect. I didn't even think about it live time of that being an option, try to run to the sideline, but it was perfect. It worked out perfectly.
Yeah, it sure did. I think, live time, I'd have to go back and watch it again, but to me, it looked like a pass first play where I believe it was Medawis in the end zone was kind of running a route. There was another receiver or back in the end zone where it looked like Ruff was actually looking to throw the football, and whether that's a read that the coaching staff had told him that if you think you can get to the front corner of the end zone, just go for it. Worst case scenario, you're stepping out of bounds at the 1 yard line, but the recognition from Ruff right away to be able to see that he's got a chance to win that foot race, I think is a whole nother thing too. That you're exactly right. At the time, there's a lot of things going on. There always is, but you're pretty close. You're inside the 10 yard line. Do you want to just use a timeout, get out of bounds, spike it, whatever, kick the short field goal? So I think there was some options there, but the way that they executed and the play calls that they had were perfect for the situation. They kind of knew what they had to do. If it had been a pass, it would have been either a completion in the end zone, same situation, game winner, or it's an incomplete pass. You likely have another shot at it. But it worked out perfect for the Bulldogs. Of course, the whole drive setting that up in the back of your mind, you're either going to score or you're more than likely losing the game. So the fact that they ate up the entire clock too, just left Caledonia with 2 seconds and a Hail Mary on a kickoff, or not a Hail Mary, but Hail Mary chance on a kickoff is what I'm getting at. But they had to set that up the whole drive. I mean, that's time management, that's game management the whole way down the field. So I think just all the way around in a situation like that where you needed every break like that, you needed the perfect game management. They had it.
Yeah. And this is one of those situations, by the way, where us shooting the show out of sequence is going to potentially make us sound dumb, because we're actually interviewing Mike after what you're watching right now, but it's going before in the show, and we'll ask him about that final sequence. So if he says something contrary to what we just said, for the record, or actually describes like what that play call was, we didn't know that when we're talking. So there's your disclaimer. You all might be smarter than we are. You all are smarter than we are. Probably. Yes. But you may know something that we don't know at the time of shooting this. We're just going off what our eyes saw, which was the result of the play, which was a genius result of the play. And we're going to assume that the result of the play came from something that was drawn up. So take that all with a grain of salt, please. So, 38-34. Grandville wins. Going through some of the other good in this game, the special teams, man. Yep. I joked to you off air that it's like everything that went wrong for Grandville and good for Caledonia in the playoff game last year flipped on special teams in this game, and then some. Caledonia, first off, slippery, tough night. They have a couple times where they roll snaps on extra points, cost them a couple points. I mean, again, they were kind of even on touchdowns the whole way, but we were playing the 2-point conversion extra point game, because Grandville, remember, had an issue on their first, where I think it was tipped. I think there was a slip, and I think there was a lot of that went kind of messed up on it. But then after that, or before that, and after that, Miguel Rojas, the 2 kickoff returns, the perfectly executed pooch kick, the onside kick that I think was a really smart game plan point when they did it as well on the drive before. But yeah, I mean, I don't even know where we're to go with it. There's a lot to talk about, but I guess we start with Rojas. And like you said, you wonder if it's something that they saw on film with how Cal was kicking and defending, because I have never in my life seen once, let alone twice, the C's part, and he had hash to hash wide open. It was just him and the kicker. It was that impressively done, and Miguel made it happen twice.
Yeah, I think that's another thing where it's hard to tell for sure without talking to the coaching staff. But it happens one time, and you're thinking,
they wouldn't tell us anyway. On that.
No, that they wouldn't. But I think you see it one time, and you're like, maybe that's a coincidence. That the kickoff returns obviously happen from time to time, and of course, great vision by Rojas to see it and make the run down the sideline, beat the kicker, and everything like that. But when you see it the second time, it's like, okay, there's something that they're either repeating or that they saw and have figured out, and they were trying to attack. And so you get 2 kickoff return touchdowns that boosts your offense. I mean, the offense was moving the football, but there was also, outside of the long Terry run, not a ton of big plays down the field. So when you get 95 and a 90-yard kickoff return to jumpstart your offense, and especially to open up the game to kind of set the tone, I think it was just huge. You got to win all 3 phases, and they went above and beyond doing that on the kickoff returns.
Yeah, for sure. The defense, man. First off, also the pooch kick. Perfect, same thing. If it was something drawn up, Cal had definitely loaded up for the onside, and one side was perfectly executed. Gv'ille landed on it. There's only so much to to say about it beyond that. But the defense, I mean, I said, there's been a lot of talk around this defense. Rightly or wrongly, it's one of those things where I think people that look at the numbers and look at the end result maybe don't see some of the factors on how you get to the final numbers a little bit sometimes, and some of what you see happen. But man, they got a couple stops plus an interception that then got punched out from behind for Carson Kopko, who nearly had the biggest MGN bump of the season after his interview, to have to step in as safety for the first time and almost come up with another red zone interception, which we said is what was going to be probably key to change the game. Little did we know, it literally didn't play a single fact. Like, there was a pick, and it wound up not having any impact on the game whatsoever. But, like, the defense, man, like, they held Cal to exactly their season average. And I think that says it all to me. In a game that was a little bit back and forth and a little bit wild at points in the second half, they held to their season average. And, like, they made some stops, and they made it happen when they needed to have it happen. And I think there's a lot of questions about how is Grandville going to beat Rockford? How is Grandville going to win a playoff game? How is Grandville going to win this, going to win that people talked about the defense. I think they answered some big questions against a team that can score some points.
Yeah, they sure did. I think they did exactly what they were asked to do. I mean, the bar was not set at pitching a shutout and holding them to under 14 points or something ridiculous. It was just got to keep your offense in it. We talked about going into the game last week at this time about, are they going to get a stop? Can they get 2 stops? And you're feeling pretty good about the way the offense has been playing, that they're going to be right in. And they did that. They
2.5.
Got a turnover on downs. Yeah, they had the interception that unfortunately, had the end of that play didn't go the way they wanted, but I mean, that's still the way that they were able to play and force that interception. So I think the defense continues to play well enough to keep them in it. I think they're still giving up some yardage, giving up points, of course, but they played well enough to win, and that's exactly what they needed. And
this is the team that they went against that's going to still find a way to score 30 points against you. Like, regardless how good your defense, well, there's one team that they didn't score that much against, and we're going to get to that in a minute.
Yep.
But this is a team that they're still going to find a way to score. They're going to score that many points against you, and I like it. I'm really impressed, and they did it. Reed Graverson is out for a while. Yep. Garrett Naraki was hurt for an extended part of that second half. Like, they've got new guy Josh Crater's gone from a fifth quarter guy to playing the whole game, and they've got this guy here and that guy here, and they're mixing this, and Carson Kopko's playing safety for the first time this year, and we have this going on and that going on, and they still did it despite all of that. And that, to me, is the most impressive part to what they did. The other thing that was really good, I think, is the offense found a depth of options to go to on top of Jaden Terry having a big night. Jaden quietly had 200 yards. Yeah. Like, it didn't necessarily feel, he had the 76-yard run that was a big part of it, but like, it didn't feel like one of those Jaden nights where he goes for 200 yards and it's like, yeah, he carried the ball every time. Like, Braylon Haney had about as many touches as he did.
He did.
And Braylon Haney, I think, picked up 15 first downs. I'm not even sure if that's a joke. I think he touched the ball 25 times, and I think he had 15 first down pickups on third down. Like, I'm not even kidding. Cash Ruff, couple touchdowns, obviously. Like, that's what I felt was good. Like, Jaden was great, yes, again. But also, like, Haney was great. And Cash found the end zone a couple times. Like, it was like Jaden was great, plus they added depth on top of it. That's what you need to beat a team like Caledonia.
Yeah, I think just getting contributions from anyone that was touching the football. Of course, Jaden Terry, is going to be the star. He's going to get 20-plus touches as he did. I know for a fact both Haney and Terry had over 20 because my stats that I keep go up to 20, and so I had to start a second line for both Haney and Terry. I don't remember the exact.
A ridiculous amount of touches.
I believe that was my quote, yes. No, but I mean, how about Haney stepping in there? I mean, you lose a player like Zadinsky, who's also turned into a star the last couple of weeks. And
he was out too. Jeez.
Yeah, and so I mean, obviously that hurts. But then Haney to step in and all of a sudden be this guy that's getting 20+ touches, had I believe 80-something yards. But yeah, the amount of short yardage conversions that he had, third, fourth downs, goal line situations where they can just turn and give him the ball and a strong runner. I mean, didn't have a ton of like big plays, chunk plays down the field, but didn't need it in a game like that. And that's exactly what you're going to need. And we'll see what Zadinsky Stefanski's situation will be for this week against Rockford, but that's exactly what you need against these teams. Is you just sometimes need a battering ram that's going to pick you up 2 to 3 yards. You know you're going to get it. You're going to convert those tough situations. That's how you keep some of those drives sustained and going, and he was a big part of that. But yeah, I think you kind of see the whole offense coming together. It's been a lot of, in the past couple weeks against some of the teams at the bottom of the OK Red, it's been a lot of big plays from Sadinsky and Terry, and of course you're going to take that keeps your offense going. But against a defense like Caledonia that's legit, it's got some serious players that you can use that depth and still move the football down the field effectively.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and you go from that, and Jaden, Jaden, by the way, picked up another offer to Miami. On top of that, he also, the touchdown run. I don't understand what happened. And I saw the highlight too. I mean, there were 12 steel jerseys around him, and there only, I thought, were 11 on the field. And there were 12 Caledonia players on him, and then he just gone. Like, I don't even know anymore with this kid.
Yeah.
Like, I really do not know. We close it out. So that was the good from this game. The bad. They have to play Rockford this week. And all those little things that we talked about they did so well have to get sharpened that much more.
Yep.
And that's kind of where things go from there. All right. That's a good look. We could go for hours on this game, but let's now take a step on ahead and take a look at the playoff picture. You're all stuck with me. Let's do our Mapatology playoff picture look, courtesy of Snooze to You. We start in Division 1, as we, of course, typically do, and this is where the Grandville fans are interested, and this is where I got my little private lesson from Snooze. He was kind enough to walk me through some of where things are positioning right now, because what you're seeing isn't necessarily where things are, because right now you could argue the team in the catbird seat to some extent might be West Ottawa, because they have the easiest game to win this week, as they have a very winnable game instead of East Kentwood having to play Caledonia, and then EK facing up in the last week of the year against West Ottawa. So in that case, a good chance that West Ottawa might be going on the road in that contest, playing very well down the stretch, of course, coming off the win they had, and a chance to make some noise in that regard. Hudsonville, of course, they have to find a win in the last couple weeks and just not slip up. Of course, Jenison this week will be their best chance to try to get there. Grandville, Rockford sitting. If you do see East Kentwood or West Ottawa, which is very possible, not get there, Grand Ledge then slides over, and very likely Grand Ledge will slide into being in this game, probably either going to or playing Grandville. So that's kind of interesting how that sets up, and you see the rest of it. I mean, regional championship right now is a buzzsaw. Likely West Bloomfield, and then the state semifinal. My goodness, you think this district is bad? Saline and Belleville, maybe the top two quarterbacks in this state. Senior, of course, Carr at Saline, and then of course Bryce Underwood at Belleville in the same district. So that sets up, and you can see a little bit of a look. So I mean, right now for whoever it is, whether it be Rockford or Grandville or whoever goes on a run, very likely looking at a situation where you're going to have to survive the rematch in the district championship, and then you'll have to go and play a West Bloomfield type, Catholic Central, one of those, in the regional championship, and then you'll have to play one of either Notre Dame or LSU/Michigan's future, wherever Bryce winds up going, in the semis, and then probably like Davison, quite possibly, or whoever it may be, in the game to follow at Ford Field. So it is, Cal went on that great run last year, and it certainly is. It's a little bit different path, the way things are potentially setting up, in a very tricky path that these teams are going to have to be able to find their way through. Division 2, kind of a look around, and of course in the area, Muskegon, Mona Shores continue to be in the same district. We'll have our eye out certainly for that potential rematch. Portage Central, Portage Northern. A couple teams have already seen each other. We'll see each other again as of how it sits. And how about that matchup? Caledonia, Byron Center, as it sits right now as well. So that's a real tough one to try to find your way out of. And then, of course, meeting, could we see Caledonia Muskegon then as a regional championship game? That would be that'd be quite something. That would certainly be something, and likely played at Hackley as well. That could be really interesting, or maybe being played at Caledonia. Then who knows? Division 3, you see how it sets up. Lowell falling and right now playing Mount Pleasant. Forest Hill Central position themselves very good, despite the loss. Zeeland West stays in perfect position, having Coopersville and this whole West Side gauntlet that will be developing. And again, I think things are starting to settle out a little bit. You could have some movement like what you're seeing in D1, but I think things starting to settle out a little bit right now in Division 3. In Division 4, you see Whitehall, Forest Hills Eastern, and then you have some really interesting matchups. South Christian, Unity Christian right now. Unity Christian at 3 and 4, they should still have a couple wins and be able to finish okay. I would think, but right now they're even showing that even if they don't win, or even if they are under 500, they may still have a chance to sneak in. I'd have to take a look at some of that exact math, but that of course is a good position to be in for South Christian. Have to look at Hamilton going south, so good positioning for a Whitehall South Christian, in particular, probably matchup coming up eventually. But for South Christian in particular, they're positioned well in a state championship hunt because D5 is where the real slaughterhouse, kind of is. Tri-County, of course, off to a really, can you call it still a good start if we only have 2 weeks to go? I don't think so. Just a good season in general. They already have 6 wins. But, here you have West Catholic, Belding, falling in the same district, Muskegon Oak Ridge, of course, there. And then Catholic Central will be likely in that regional championship game against West Catholic. So D5, honestly, the D5 championship might be won in that regional title game. You hate to be that simplistic about it, but there's a very good chance that could very, very well wind up being the case. So you can continue on, of course, snooze2u.com. Make sure you check all of that out because there's so much more you can look at. And as we get into next week, of course, Snooze typically will put out the favorites winning as well, and how things may kind of wind up settling out a little bit. So we certainly will keep our eyes on all of that. I also, unfortunately, you all have to do the Week 8 preview with me alone, as Chandler had his heart out, and I'm doing this alone because we always go way too long. So Week 8, kind of a two-pronged week that we're looking at in some extent. First off, we're looking at it from the perspective of Grandville Rockford. We'll break that down. Also, we're looking at it for this week's show. We announced today, Monday, we're filming this show out the next day on Tuesday, but we announced game night on Michigan Sports Radio, the Whip Around show, where we're going to be giving you, Reds. If you watched the Red Zone show, if you watched, there's the college football version of it. There's a baseball whip around show and whatever. That's what it'll be. We'll whip around between all the games on Michigan Sports Radio with live radio and live video in the vast majority of those games that we're looking at. So we'll be able to tune into those games. We'll have an eye on scores. We'll have commentary. We'll have a little bit of fun. We're talking about doing as a halftime break the next of our snake drafts. We have not yet done a draft for best jerseys. Maybe that gets broken out during the show. So a bit of a tease right there. So we'll talk about the whip around show in a second. But first off, Grandville Rockford. All right, so it's been time to exercise some demons already for Grandville. They got over that Caledonia hump. They had not beaten Caledonia since Derek Pennington showed up. And you even think about Grandville before Derek Pennington, there have been some games against Caledonia that I think they were disappointed in the result. You think of the Vanderhoff game from 2019 when Grandville had won the share of the conference. They just had to win that game. They'd already beaten Rockford, and they could have been conference champions, and they wind up losing that Caledonia game to close the regular season. Dealing with some injuries as well. It was a such a big win. And now it's the same thing. And this is a hump. And we kind of talked about some of the guys and, with Mike and with Cash about, here's kind of where things set up a little bit in terms of what this team's done. And listen, Grandville has not beaten Rockford since 2019. That includes a couple of losses in some of those seasons. In particular, the 2020 year, I think, is the one that stands out to people the most in a lot of regards. The first thing when you think about Grandville Rockford, you think about what Randy Vanderveen, the longtime defensive coordinator, who was, he was there with Munger, now still there with Brent Cummings, and the way that Rockford has shut down the T. And we always talk about when a team comes in, we can tell if they're going to be able to stop the T whatsoever by how well their scout team runs it. There are some teams that watching that scout team try to run the T is the funniest thing of our week, because truly it's, it looks like newborns trying to walk. They don't know what they're doing. Rockford comes in, and of course they ran the flex bone for years, which is completely different, but a power running system anyway. That gets into a digression. That gets into the when people call the power T the wing T, and the wing T is a triple option offense, and the power T is not. And I could argue all day about it. But Rockford their scout team runs that T to a T. Sorry. So effectively that that's how you can tell, oh yeah, they're going to be just fine, and that they're so good and they're so deep. 106 kids on the roster this year. Ryan Ahern, the only one that plays both way at running back and at linebacker. We'll talk about him, and they're just looking unstoppable. I mean, listen, they beat Caledonia, by 4 scores. So 5 scores almost. So it goes without saying, we know. This is a very good Rockford team. This is a Rockford team that unquestionably believes, and for good reason, believes that they're a state championship caliber team. So getting over that hump is really big. And that's before getting into any of the commentary and whatever about this game and the X's and O's. There's this general sense, I think, around this game and what Grandville has been and what Rockford has been, that there's a statement to be made for Grandville, not just in winning the conference championship, but in announcing that this team is as different as we thought they were. And I like what Mike said. I think Cash kind of alluded to it too. We're just showing what we thought we were in the summer. And I rang that bell and rang that bell and rang that bell all summer long as well. And I think we're seeing that starting to pay off. And now it's really time at home to see if they can make a statement in it, and if they can. I think Grandville's uniquely built to be that team that can score enough while also slowing the game down a bit with the offense they run. You think about how perfectly they ran that final quarter and a half of that game, taking time off the clock and scoring twice. Let's get into some of the Rams looks. Drake Irwin, their quarterback, has just been unbelievable throwing the football, running the football. This year he spent some time injured. They still look fine when he was out. But Irwin is so good, and you listen to Mike talk a little bit about some of the movement on the line, some of the things they do. They run a very complex offense. They're running an offense with a guy in Jason Vanderlaan, who's an recent NFL player, Coach Tony Anise disciple in terms of a Ferris State quarterback. So they're running some of that, mixing some of the some of the ski gun elements, some of the pro style elements built in the offense. I think I even saw some highlights of them doing some stuff under center, possibly last week in terms of play action and different things. This is a dynamic offense. And Drake Irwin, with a great set of receivers outside, are the first thing you have to stop. And it goes out saying that Grandville's defense has had some struggles at points stopping some of the pass game and some teams that have explosive players. And Rockford certainly brings that. Now they answered some questions last week about that against Caledonia. So we'll see if that comes out in the wash. Ryan Ahern, like I said, the only guy that goes both ways on a roster of 106 kids, 106. This year, and he's the one that goes both ways. Obviously they don't need him to go both ways. This is a college team, in terms of the number of the roster construction. And Ahern is physical. He's powerful. He's mean. He's a terrific defensive player in terms of shutting things down and very smart against the tee, and has shown that throughout the years. And as a running back, he's just a bruiser. They run him at Wildcat quarterback. I think he had a couple Wildcat quarterback touchdowns last week as well. He's got that same killer instinct that his brother had. And Ryan, we've seen him for a few years now. He's been a part of this, and he's been he's been up since he was an underclassman and knows exactly what he's doing. Even he paired his brother in the backfield for Zach's senior year as well. In this defense, they're as stingy as ever. And I talked about Randy Vanderveen, and this defensive system knows how to stop the tee, and that's where it comes down to Grandville. And we'll be watching this from afar and looking forward on our show. They're going to have to probably mix things up. I don't think you're going to be able to straight just get the push you want, and you probably won't be able to just straight give the ball to Jaden Terry 25 times and Braylon Haney 20 times and try to catch Carson Kopko on a couple trap plays and a couple passes mixed in. It's going to have to be varied formations a little bit, I think, and trying to draw their eye a little bit. And I think Grandville can obviously do that. We've seen them do that. It'll have to be different looks out of the tee in terms of the play itself. I think it's going to have to be, we talked about last week being the best game that we've ever seen Coach Stiegel coach. He's going to have to come right back to that, and it's going to have to be one of the best games he's coordinated. I think it's, the last game, it was a great game of coaching decisions that, Eric and I think the rest of this staff also was able to make, but now it's going to have to get turned around a little bit in terms of answering in terms of a very, very good offensive, defensive game plan that they're going to have set up in that way. And how can Grandville win? It's just that. The defense, it's the same thing as last week. Turnovers, find a way to get a stop, or two, or three, who knows what the game script is, and the offense will have to be varied. The offense will have to change things. I can't wait to get to watch this game from afar and kind of, be able to sink our teeth a little bit into what are we seeing, react to it a little bit differently than how we normally are able to react to things. So I'm certainly excited to kind of see how all of that is going to shake out a little bit in this one. Again, the Whip Around Show. Make sure you tune in. Of course, everyone will be tuned in to one of the Grandville broadcast options, including on Michigan Sports Radio with Brock Conkle and our Rockford team, which they do a very good job. But our Whip Around Show, this game, of course, will be a big part of what we're talking about, but Catholic Central South Christian, they are crowning a champion also in the OK Gold. Caledonia trying to bounce back against an East Kentwood team that needs a win. EK just talked about it. They need a couple of wins if they're going to kind of be able to sneak the way into where they are going to need to be. Hudsonville needs to get this win against Jenison, and they can essentially guarantee their playoff positioning. Coopersville's got Howland Christian as Coopersville tries to set themselves up for the playoff run. Freeland, Central Montcalm, and plenty others that you can all find will be in action as well. Plus, we'll be having our eye out on games like East Grand Rapids, Byron Center, and other games that maybe aren't going to be on the Michigan Sports Radio Network, but we can keep our eye on in terms of watching the scores and so forth. So make sure to tune in to that Whip Around Show, 625. Wherever you watch your normal broadcast, it'll be there. Also, one of the best places to go then will be the Listen Live tab on MichiganSportsRadio.com, because you'll be able to watch our Whip Around Show. If you want to go to the Grandville game, click down to that. Want to go to Catholic Central, click onto that, and so on and so forth. So that's great. That sets things up. Let's take a break. When we come back from break, Chandler will reappear, and we'll go over our power rankings for this week.
Can you identify your number one personal trait? The thing that you do better than most others? If not, this may be a good time to think this through. If you're really good at writing, then why use the phone? If you're great on the phone, why use email? If you have exceptional human relation skills, why sit back and let others lead? I'm Randy Hansen, president of Centennial Securities Company. Playing to our strengths is something we do very well at Centennial. And if you're already a customer, you know what I mean. If not, isn't it about time?
Member SIPC and FIN.
Hey everyone, Nate Dreyer from MGN, and MGN merch now available for purchase, and we have got a ton of options. Here's where you find the new MGN shop. Go to MichiganGameNight.com. Many of you have probably been there before. Click on the shop merch tab. Many of you have probably been to the MGN page on Michigan Sports Radio. Click on the Buy MGN merch tab. It'll take you here. We've partnered with Teespring, neat company that allows for us to have a lot of different shirt designs. They'll print them, they'll make them, they'll ship them out to you. So a neat way that allows us to have a lot of offerings. We've got a ton of really cool t-shirts, hats, snapback, dad hats, beanie hats, water bottles, more t-shirts, more sweatshirts, just a ton of options. Really, just a ton of options that you're going to be able to look through and find exactly what you may want. We've done what we can, like I said, with Teespring to try to stack this thing. We'll have plenty more options that we'll put up on social media, but make sure you check it out. Welcome back to the Tailgate Report. Let's roll through our rankings for this week, and I think things will go quicker in this segment than they maybe do a lot of weeks because things are kind of settled in a lot of places, and where they aren't settled, we're going to officially settle them this weekend. So let's start in the OK Red post-week 7 rankings right here. Of course, Grandville beats Caledonia, and then some of the other games, Rockford, East Kentwood, Rockford picks up another win, and so on and so forth. Won't give away too much because we'll get into where our rankings are at. I now have Grand Haven 8, Jenison 7, East Kentwood 6. Of course, Jenison, Grand Haven kind of settled. Oh yeah, they kind of settled some things out there. But Grand Haven, I mean, they haven't won yet, so they kind of have to drop to the bottom. They lost the battle against Jenison that ended apparently in there was apparently a shoving match, and there was apparently not a handshake line, and apparently was at 12:30 in the morning when finished. So I don't know what happened out there. Things got weird out on the lake shore.
They were having a pretty wild game too.
I don't understand what happened out there. But whatever. Jenison will not be at the bottom of the OK Red. Congrats, they won it.
Yep. I've had my bottom 3 been pretty similar throughout most of the season. I've officially now made the switch, of course, after that game. Hard to argue against it. So I've got Grand Haven 8. I've got Jenison 7. I've got West Ottawa 6 yet.
Okay. Yeah. And that's mostly fine. So then, next, I would have Hudsonville 5, West Ottawa 4. West Ottawa, my thing is, West Ottawa beat Hudsonville, and as we broke down in the last segment that Chandler wasn't here for, now is miraculously back on for, West Ottawa is the one that has the most viable playoff path. So I think they're playing really, really well. I think they're playing the best of those teams in the middle right now. So I'm willing to give West Ottawa a little bit of a big-time bump up. I was high on them before the season started, so I'm also going to be quick to pull that trigger. So I put West Ottawa just outside that first tier now, as we've re-stratified our tiers once again.
Yeah, I haven't done as much as you have. I think the win over Hudsonville definitely proves West Ottawa is a little bit more serious than maybe we were taking them. Again, they've got Grand Haven next week, so that's I'm sure we've talked about this, or we'll talk about it, depending on... This is beyond my understanding, but
this is down to what Nate said.
It's
not good.
Oh yeah, West Ottawa, Grand Haven next week, winnable game. I still would like to see their matchup against East Kentwood. I still think I've got East Kentwood at 5 ahead of West Ottawa. I think East Kentwood wins that game, but after West Ottawa beats Hudsonville, that's more of a question in my mind now. Mm-hmm. But I've got so West Ottawa still at 6, East Kentwood 5, and Hudsonville at 4 because of the head-to-head win there.
Yeah, and then, the top 3. Cal, 3 now. They've lost to both of the top 2 tier. I don't think that's what you have, right?
Yes.
So then you have the top 2 tier. And the top 2 tier, there is really only one way, I think, to put it, because they both have the common opponent. One team is unbeaten. Whatever. So I wrote a little note for myself on here that I can't say on air about my thoughts on this.
Okay.
So I've got Rockford 2, Grandville 1 because I don't care, and I'm gonna take my chance and I'm riding the high.
Okay.
Grandville I'm gonna pick them to win. I think.
You think?
Yes.
Yes. All right.
So I got Grandville 1, Rockford 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're feeling dangerous.
Yeah, feeling dangerous.
All right. I like it.
You like that?
Yeah, I do like that. No,
God, they almost got him killed on Sunday.
They did. Yeah, we don't need that. No, not good. Not good. He's a Kirk fan, a converted Kirk fan. That's things have been rough. But no, I want to so bad. Of course, I'm right there with you on a lot of this, but I just can't do it. I've got Granville 2, Rockford 1.
That's your job. That's literally
I got to keep things a little bit more sane.
For.
Yeah, I got to keep things a little more dialed in here. In my heart, I see it, but
all right, that's good. So the Power 6 then, I don't really have much of a rankings rant this week. I know everyone wanted one, but everyone's in the top. They got it. Snooze did the best. Snooze has it correct. The others, I think, here's your deal. I don't think everyone understands. I literally don't think anyone but us understands how good Davison is and how good. Like, Grand Blanc now is 5-2, by the way.
Yeah.
Beating Lapeer, they've got a good, that's a really good win. So I think that's the other thing is I think there's a little bit of West Side bias of, we're looking at these teams like Mona Shores and, there was at least one or two of these polls that had Mona ahead of Grandville. That is a little crazy because, that's just we're propping up the West Side a little bit. Like, Davison beats everyone but Rockford on the West Side of the state by 2-3 scores. Yeah. And they might even beat Rockford by 2-3 scores when it comes down to it. So that's my only thing. Whatever. I mean, if Grandville takes care of business this week, then we'll start. If you don't have Grandville 1 after that, then I'll start the Holy War back up. But until then, I've got nothing really much to say. No one actually tried to pull it. I thought someone would. I figured at least one of them was going to. Just
out of spite.
Let's not do it. Yeah. Actually, I thought it might be Snooze.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly. So, OK, Power 6. I have Grandville. You have Rockford.
Correct.
That wasn't supposed to be a laugh about my pick. That was just.
Yeah.
OK, Green. We told you. We told you. Everyone all year long. And again, I know Parker Holman was hurt. Muskegon lost those 2 games. They were going to be fine. Rockford is going to maybe win a D1 state championship, and De La Salle probably will win the D2 state championship again. Muskegon going to be fine. They are fine. They're going to be OK Green champs. So I'm assuming they won the game.
I mean, I can't argue. I had to pick Muskegon. I think Zealand West, the injury to the Holman makes things more interesting. Did keep the game close and low scoring, so I think credit to Zealand West for keeping themselves in it. But yeah,
John Shillitoe's still their coach.
Yeah, exactly. But Muskegon, I mean, they've got the conference wrapped up. It's looking like, so it's hard to pick against them.
OK White, still a mess. I think I'm just going to go FHC out of the mess because I think they still are the best team that'll go on the deepest run. This week, EGR Byron Center, a game that, they could kind of help position themselves in a little bit right now, but the White continues to be a mess, but I still think FHC is the best team. I think they play that Byron Center game 10 times, and I think they do win it 6 or 7 times still.
That's the way it's looking as the season goes along. That, I mean, of course, Byron Center wins that game, and then they deserve that, but at the same time, the way that now the rest of the season playing out, big win for Forest Hill Central this week over Northview. I think the East Grand Rapids Byron Center game will help us determine a little bit more of who's going to be in that second position as they've kind of beaten each other up. But I've got Forest Hill Central. OK
Blue has been over for 6 weeks now. West Catholic continuing, of course, to roll. Really not too much more. I mean, for West Catholic, it's a question about going on a state championship run for them. And I think it's that simple. They've got a loaded, they've had to move around divisions a little bit, so it'll be tough for them. But that's where the bulk of that is sitting. We're gonna go OK Silver,
okay,
and then we'll go to OK Gold last because that's a good promo for our show this week. OK Silver, Belding, they won again. I didn't even look at the rest of the scores because the Silver's over.
It really didn't matter. Yeah, there was Belding won big over Godwin Heights.
Okay,
and
good.
I think they've got it wrapped up. So.
Okay, cool. Okay. That's all. And then OK Gold. We've been on opposing sides. The OK Red we have a little bit of fun with, but we've been on opposing sides of the Gold all year long between South and Grand Rapids Catholic Central. And that's why you need to tune in to our show this week. And we, of course, I previewed it in the last segment, but again, 6:25, we're on the air. Whip around, red zone type coverage, whatever you want to call it. It's the Game Night Michigan Sports Radio whip around show. We are crowning champions in the OK Red. I'm just going to say it. We're crowning an outright champion in the OK Red. I don't think either of those teams are losing next week.
No.
Same thing with this. So we're crowning a couple outright champions. And yeah, I've had Catholic Central all year. You've had South Christian all year. South Christian had a tough one against TK last week.
Yep.
But I'm sure you aren't backing down until this week.
No, it can't change. It can't change now.
Want.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a classic, look ahead game. They were overlooking Thornapple Kellogg a little bit, trying to get excited to prove me right against Catholic Central, and I had to come back and win a bit of a nail biter there, but still got the win. Can't change my pick now, and we're gonna watch it play out in front of our eyes on Friday night. So,
all right, that's a little bit quicker than normal final segment, but by the time we get to the end of the year, we've run out of stuff to talk about here.
Yep.
It kind of has all settled out a little bit. So, all right, think that'll do it. Friday night, again, Grandville, Rockford, Brock Conkle, and that crew will have video coverage from Grandville. He called me today. He's working on getting positioned in the booth where he needs to be able to have the best camera. I'm the Grandville expert, so work that out. I'm sure the Grandville. I don't want to promote a non-MSR broadcast, but the Grandville students do a good job as well. So make sure you give both of those a click, please. Do that for me.
Yeah.
And give us 3 clicks. And then we were doing. I'm excited for this whip round. I have no idea how it's going to work. Yeah. Like, I think of the chaos of what this show is, and I'm like, we're going to be sitting here for 3 hours watching these games. It's essentially, I don't know, like, is it going to turn into an unhinged Manning cast of the Grandville Rock? If the Grandville Rockford's close, we're going to just ignore our jobs, and we're just going to watch that. Uh-huh. But who knows? I have no idea what it's going to be like. We'll see. But 6:25, so we'll be on the top of the page, on the Listen Live page on Michigan Sports Radio. You can find us there. We'll direct you around all the other great games going on. East Kentwood, Caledonia. And again, it's very important for East Kentwood's playoff positioning, and Caledonia's got to be PO'd, of course, and looking to close strong in all the other games. Hudsonville's got Jenison on a high. Hudsonville's got to win that game if they're not going to fall into a little bit of a gray zone in terms of playoff stuff. So all that coming up, and we'll see everyone on Friday night. Thank you for tuning in to another Tailgate Report. Thank you to Cash Ruff, Mike Medawis also for joining us this week. Really, really great show wrapping up. Grandville beats Caledonia. It's the big one this week. We'll see if the Dawgs can do it. And if they can, make sure you tune in here next week, because I don't even know what it's going to be. We'll see you then.